It's 6 p.m., the 18th of May. Welcome to Steve's Place. Tonight we're going to learn a lot more about water than you ever thought you need to know. But anyway, but before we get to that, I need to get rid of some housekeeping here. I want to remind you, July 17th to 20th, Psychotronics Conference is coming up. Just go to psychotronics.com, I believe, and or just write and use psychotronics at yahoo.com and for information. And then I'd like to remind everybody about our conference that's coming up, the 2025 Extraordinary Technology Conference and Expo. It's going to be August 6th to 10th at the Crown Plaza again. We have some really, really great people coming to speak at this. Next week we will be releasing the names of a couple of add-on speakers here that will make it well worth your while to plan on coming. Right now we have a 30% discount for those who sign up this week still. And if you sign up this week, you can also get a free workshop, which is going to be at Wednesday at 1. And then the room rates are going to be $119. And if you go to our website, TeslaTech.info, and click on the big red box, that will take you to our conference page and has all the information there. I know times are rough and everything, but if we want to change the world, we have to go get some more information and encourage those who are doing the exploring with us. So get signed up for the conference, August 6th through 10th. I'd love to see you guys there. I think it's going to be probably one of the most important conferences I've done. This I think is going to be a game changer for a lot of different technologies that you're going to see out there. So check it out, 2025 Extraordinary Technology Conference, August 6th to 10th. If you have any problems signing up, just give me a call at 463-1994, and I can help you out and get you signed up right there. In the meantime, we still have last year's conference, available on demand. It's going to be available on demand forever. And so you go to our page and click on this banner and bring up the how-to page. And here on how-to, you can order T-shirts. You can order last year's conference. It's $99, one-time purchase. It lasts forever. And it's a great bargain because not only do you get all the presentations, you get all the exchanges that go on between them. Like between speakers, we also have Karen and Jason there, and they're interviewing a lot of different people there in between the sessions that aren't even on the main menu. And the only way you're going to see them is if you either get the video on demand or you attend the conference itself, and it's too late for that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. And last but not least, our YouTube channel. I'd like to get to 25,000 subscribers for the conference. We're at like a little bit over 22,000 right now. So encourage your friends to check it out, and watch it. It's free to be a subscriber. When you're a subscriber, you get notified every time we throw something up there. There are people who have to, you have to be a member to see some of the videos there. But we have some great stuff. Like we just had a mini course on remote viewing that's up there for members. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff up there that you're not going to get elsewhere. And we're putting a new material up there at the rate of about 2 videos a week at least. So get up there, and you're going to find it's well worth the money. And to be a member, it's like $9.99. And if you were to buy like the DVDs, it's going to cost at least $20. So just go up there, become a member, and have access to over 1,500 videos. I mean, there's a lot of material up there, and you're not going to find it anywhere else. And let me move on here with Krishna. Hello, Krishna and Karen.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, Karen. And they're going to be talking about, let me get this changed. Oops.
JivaWater.
and JivaWater. I got to figure out a way to get this thing off. JivaWater, the forgotten genius of water. Okay, and who wants to go first?
Oh, this is the Krishna Jiva show, and I'm his backup. So I'll let Krishna go.
So go, Krishna.
So Karen brings out the source code. Well, namaste to all of you, and very good evening from Taos. So you see the title, The Forgotten Genius of Water. So this is a conglomeration of almost my lifetime of work. And over the last 30 years, I have literally immersed myself into understanding the non-linearity of water. And then as we advance further now, we look at the physics, the chemistry, and the biology of water. So we are a commercial operation in Bangalore, India. And we have a set of devices. But more important than that, the summary of our exploration today will be from the areas that look at the non-linearity of water. We look at the physics of water from instruments like the NMR, the FTIR, NIR, and then we get into looking at mass spectrometry of water. And this covers applications in just about every sector where we are today in India and across the world with our devices. We may have probably about 5,000 out there, but this is more in terms of where we have evolved over the last close to 4.5 years since we began our company, which is Fourth Phase Water Technology. To the most recent, you see the one on the top left. This was our research panel that was invited by a organization that is very focused upon arid and semi-arid regions and are looking for sustainable solutions. It's an organization that is co-sponsored by the UN, and our two guys you see there standing there, Dr. Abhishek Tippa and dear Harsha, are all there together. The next one, top middle, is last year we had an engagement with a conglomerate from India. They're like a mini GE, have been in business for about 125 years, and they have followed our systems, utilized them, and then said, we want to engage with you in an official manner. And so you can see that, well, you see the guy there on the right-hand side, that's Krishna, then my partner, Srinivasan. And so the two of us are founders of Fourth Phase Water Technologies, then the CEO of the water division of the Murugappa Group, Jayatirth, and our head of global operations, Zach. So that's how, then we go down to the bottom right. And the bottom right is a very key one, and that's happening this year. So there was a call out from the administration of India to look at innovation. What are the young companies, startups, young companies that are they're providing their contribution rather towards sustainability and earth care. So there were well over 1,000 entries, and from those 1,000 entries, 4 were chosen, and we were in the 4 that were chosen. Now, the curated group, which included mostly scientists, have gone out into the fields to meet the farmers who are using our Jiva devices, because we are looking at arid, semi-arid regions, and of course, with close to 5,000 devices out in the world, it's very significant in what has been provided. And you can see there are illustrations of root sizes, of root depth, root concentrations. We see that in products. Now, we will give you the broad spectrum from here on water, and mostly is how little we know about water from the way we have understood it. So when we look at this, what is the hidden genius of water? When we structure water, water comes alive. And when water comes alive, it fosters vitality in the environment. Now we will get into each one of these more in depth as we proceed with our presentation. Structure optimizes bridging, and we'll get into that section. And because of the bridging, and we are talking about the hydrogen bridges, then what occurs from there? The emission of light, and we'll go on. Then cellular hydration, which is because of tighter hydrogen bonding. The piezoelectric charge occurs during that compression of the hydrogen bond, and that's why we call it condensed. It's a condensed molecule, so condensed water. Then oxygen-rich environment, and we all know oxygen provides the gateways of life. So because of that, the aquaporins, which are actually the pathways that enhance vitality to the cell, and the replenishment of the soils. Again, we talk about frequencies of the earth, which many of us are well aware of. And this is where we get into the full spectrum of this magical liquid that is totally right within us all the time. Now, we look at a very big example here. Water is more than just H2O. Why? Because we see, number one, the hydrogen bridges cause hexagonal lattice structures. Mind you, everything that is being provided here is deeply rooted in science. Inspired, to me, the great inspirations has been from not only Gerald Pollack of very recent, Emilio del Guidici, Vladimir Vyakov, Victor Schauberger, Albert St. Georgi, Richard Feynman. These were all some of the great insights that has led us to where we are today with Jiva. So we know that water is more than just H2O. Consider the various anomalies that we will also address what H3O2 is, which all dance in a progressive chain as conductors of energy and life, which again, as what St. Georgi calls, is the matrix of life. So from the hydrogen structures to a carbon-based, and ultimately we are all there, from our DNA right in the mother's womb. But what have we done to our water? Do we stop to really reference and reflect upon this depth of what we are really obtaining from the taps? There you are, microplastics, the treatment of plants, we talk about the trauma of water, and then we see the level of scaling that occurs and why the scaling occurs, and ultimately what do we get? Flatlined water that pretty much has zero life energy in it. Karen, you want to add something to it?
I just want to make sure that people understand that the pipes that come into our homes, we think aren't filled with corrosive materials. But as you have something like a vortexing machine that helps clean the pipes as the water comes through, you don't get this buildup. So your water doesn't come through that kind of crud and sludge as your pipes get older in your home. So part of what you have with the Jiva device is something that helps maintain the pipes as life goes on. And that's part of what happens of the maintenance of a lot of the things with water from spas to things like that. You don't get that kind of buildup. So I just want to pull that out.
So earlier we began by looking at the light energy, which is the photon output. And this is deeply inspired by the work of Albert St. Georgi. So we are looking at the light's force in water. You see the tap water. It's a 5-second live video, and there is no information at all. River water, which is rich with always, it's flowing, there's movement, and we can see that there is a bright spark. And that leads us to what is the essence of this. And this is where, when St. Georgi said, if we are to understand life, we must look at the electron configurations inside of complex molecular structures. And that's exactly what we did with the principles of bioelectrography that you saw earlier. So hence, my inspirations have led to the birth of Jiva devices. And we can see that, to me, it is very important that knowledge, which is science, based in wisdom, this is the blending. And that's my early formative years, having grown up in India and gone very deep into the Vedas, into the Upanishads. So we look at that nature is rich with wisdom. And it's that wisdom of nature. We look at biomimicry. Biomimicry, again, is the aspect of, it's vivid around us. Leonardo da Vinci, he was one that got inspired by it. So was I. And am continuing. So JivaWater devices, they restore. And we have seen this in consistent continuum. How does all this relate to life? Well, hydrated water molecules support cellular communication and balance. And so with that, you emphasize health and you emphasize harmony. And when we talk about health and harmony, it doesn't leave out any of our ecosystems. So so we talk about humans and animals. I refer to this as two-leggeds, four-leggeds, and even the no-leggeds. The no-leggeds are down beneath the soil, and we have lots of no-leggeds inside of us too, don't we? Millions of them, billions of them. Well, to use the word structured water is a very dynamic word because it exactly is the nature of nature itself. So what does it do? It behaves like a liquid crystal with memory, so it is able to retain information. We will get into all those deeper as we go on. I just wanted to provide bullet points, compliments of dear Karen, who, of course, she says, I'm always there behind the backstage of the screen, but knows every pulse that is occurring. Well, when we use vortexing and piezoelectric effects, these are nature's laws. These are nature's harmonics. They are nature's signals. They are nature's dance. So what do? They reorganize the hydrogen bonds. So and that's what we will get into a little deeper, because this is the kind of data that we got from our research with a leading university in the EU, where the hydrogen bonds begin to contract. And even though they do it in a very minute, the expression from there is like it's almost like a ballet. And I think, what did dear Gerald Pollack call it? He had a very adorable term for that term. When they all come together and they begin to propagate and dance. Karen, what was that?
He called it the jitterbug, and then he called it the scaffolding. And and again, it's not H2O. I think that was something that I even missed. It's definitely an H3O2 formula, which is kind of like, oh. Because when I was thinking of, when I work also with Slovak, and he does light water, what is hydrogen? Water has these three kind of normal things that we understand. It's light, medium, and heavy. And the heavy water is the deuterium water. That's the stuff that actually jams up your the mitochondria and how it flows through the system. And when they talk about drinking light water, that is water that actually comes from the Alps that the centurions actually drink. So how did I say that? The ones that live for 100 years. Centennials. I know, I'm not saying it right. But anyway, so the whole idea is, so when I saw this one, which was the 3, it's really where I think it's on the next slide. He says, one is where you dance. It's when you get the ink print. I think it's the next one, but it's where you actually, the scaffolding begins, but the The fourth phase is a gel stage. It's not really a water stage. It's more of a gel stage that works more like a TV screen where you see the different screens, where all of a sudden the story of life becomes to unfold. It's the key part of the living matrix that makes life itself. It's not just the part where you see the infrared charging it. It actually becomes the matrix. So there you go. Sorry about that.
No. But that very membrane, which dear Gerald Pollack talks about or wrote about in his book, The Fourth Phase, really is that fine interference phase on the top that is actually a gel, very much in the body of water, but its architecture, its geometry, the signaling is so vital and so vibrant, because I do remember him, Gerald, conveying that it creates these long chain electron bonds. And these long chain electron bonds continue to just keep on propagating, and the bulk water, which is the water that is still chaotic, begins to form and align from higher vibration systems that draw lower vibration systems towards it, which again are principles of natural law.
I think that's, yeah. So this is though what the what I was thinking about. It's where it's like one is the H2O is like the liquid ink, and the H3O is the paper that organizes a story. I think that's a good way. So you can see right here the gel-like stage. And as Jerry says, it's not H2O. I have to say, I actually emailed Mr. Pollack and I said, I kept asking him the question about what's the H3, and I said, where is it in the book? And he says, Karen, it's everywhere. Reordered the book because I just kept thinking of it in my mind as just the fourth phase. So I mean, and he's been in my magazine Science Sage many times, but I always knew the jitterbug. I always knew that it was a crystalline structure. I also knew that it's scaffold, but I didn't name it right. So anyway, there you go. Sorry, Jerry.
But again, what the outcome of this easy water is that it does exactly what nature naturally does, because ultimately we are referencing soils and cells. And within all that ecosystem, here we are. So when the cells are ultimately nourished, hydrated, optimized, which you'll see as we progress, the same thing occurs with the soils. The swelling of the soils, because in arid and semi-arid regions, the water permeates down because the density of the water is increased because of the bonding of the hydrogen atoms.
You know, I'm going to do a little commercial here for Steve, because Gerald Pollack will be at TeslaTech this year. And I reached out to him to see if he would come. And the reason I did was last year, he was mentioned at least 4 different times in the conference. And I thought he would be an asset, somebody that people could sit down and talk to. He's very, very friendly. And he'll be something where people can actually sit and talk. And I won't ask him that question anymore. So anyway, sorry about that, Krishna, but I thought I'd put that plug in there.
No, wonderful, because all this, you know, here we are a commercial organization, a company that's manufacturing, and completely from a business to consumer platform. Totally, you can go on your laptop, your mobile, and be able to order globally, all the way to direct to farming, direct to industry, direct to business.
We'll get there though, Krishna. Hold on, because we've got all that in the back end.
Right.
So hold on for a second. So I think the thing is that we're talking about some of the hidden things in water, because we'll go into all the detail of that. The interesting about what most people don't see in water and the mystery of water, and Gerald Pollack recommended this gentleman that I reached out to a long time ago to show the mystery that actually is in water. So the first one right here is actually, these are all drops of water. This one comes from the Alps. So the water does imprint. So water does hold or retain information in its environment. So that goes to everything that's around you, from your home to people to you name it. It imprints. Most people don't think of water as having oxygen, but when Krishna is talking about his device, they make sure the way that they've built so many things into it to optimize what you're getting, you are going to get a rich texture of oxygen in it. These are literal air pipes that water have. And so people don't even think of water as on a drop of water actually having circuits like this, where air runs through it. This one kind of shows the dendritical firing structure that water has. So water carries information, water carries oxygen, water carries fire, and water is the transformer. So right here, you can see the alchemy happening within every drop of water. I mean, all of this is a drop of water, and all of it is different phases of what you see in states of matter. So I thought I did that to show how absolutely fabulous water is and how it's not one-dimensional. Like we just think, oh, we got water coming out of the tap. So here's
what I'd like to also add to this, Karen, is that when we look at a drop of water, in that one drop of water is 1.5 followed by 21 zeros, the number of molecules. Imagine the vital prana, the vital life force energy that resides in a drop.
You know, I've been working a lot with Walter Russell's stuff, and he says there's only two things. There's water and there's plasma. And when you actually look at these different phases, you see it all right there. So when they say it's the matrix, it is literally the matrix. It is the transformer. It's like what carries your body. This is like the skeletal and the nervous system that you have. And so that's pretty amazing when you see the transport of what it actually holds and what it does. So I'll go to the next one.
So here we go, right? So hence we have to really explore the non-linearity of life. And when we explore, which is again exactly when we start looking at electrons, and then when dear Jerry Pollack started investigating a deeper aspect of the water, and he realized and he saw the gel, that's where the term water behaves like a liquid crystal, a phase that supports information transfer, structural memory, and energy storage.
I like this part, Krishna. It says shifting trillions of times per second. So that just kind of tells you that how responsive it is to the environment. And that what you're doing with the Jiva device is creating the optimum environment for it. And we'll show that coming. So here's the structure. So go ahead.
So when we ultimately sift, it doesn't just hydrate. You vitalize the life energy in it. And with that, as we know, it organizes, amplifies life, and thereby raises the vibration. So when it raises the vibration, it raises the natural rhythms of life. So which means that the life energy inside of one, or I would say prana, the life force, the chi, all that begins to get amplified. And the moment that gets amplified, the velocity of life itself, the velocity of growth, begins to flourish without having to raise entropy, which is a very key factor. Then we see that when these hydrogen bonds begin to occur, they emit piezoelectric. And what is that aspect of the piezoelectric? And this is the research that was done at the Czech University of Life Sciences, found that when water with piezoelectric stimulation, like that produced by Jiva, water, the hydrogen bonds tighten by 15 to 20%. So usually the bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen is somewhere between 1.8 to 2.0 angstrom. And that reduced to between 1.5 to 1.6 angstrom. And what this provided was so significant that many a time this would completely uh, be almost in a veil in front of us unless we are able to equate this with actual sightings that we see in agriculture, that we see in hydroponics, in aquaculture. Again, we talk about cellular systems, soil systems. So all of life gets to flourish, which is again the deepest aspect of what to me is the purpose of life. Is water is the mother and matrix. When we revive and begin to really bring forth that quality of the water, then all life thrives. And
Interesting. Krishna,
go ahead.
I think the point that needs to be put out here, the reason we put the thunderstorm in there is, you want to explain that? The picture of the thunderstorm.
What actually occurs inside is a massive discharge, is a massive electrical discharge. And that electrical discharge is like a conduit that you take the human ecosystem, it's like passing through our neurons, our capillaries, with a velocity that, as we can even understand, even at the speed of light, imagine how it traverses. Hence, we can see that water is a carrier of such information, and hence, all the way, when we see this condensed from a drop, 1.56 trillion molecules, imagine a tiny glass carrying that input with such charge, it amplifies. So what does it also do? It revives the life energy, and what is the life is the spectrum. And not just visible spectrum we are talking about a whole array of frequencies.
We'll get to that one too. So it also, with the Jiva device, the way that it's made, it actually is designed to mimic the thunderstorm. So it actually, when you're actually, the reason for the water and the Jiva device is to bring back the structure, to bring back the integrity of the water. So when you drink it, your body gets charged. So it's actually like drinking water from a thunderstorm. And that's why farmers love the thunderstorms. It actually charges and vitalizes. The water that comes down is got more energy in it. And so with that energy, it actually vitalizes life. So there we go.
And so from there, we see that the chaotic, and this is exactly the influence of what traverses when water passes through our Jiva device, that you got chaotic water, which we all know, and where the arrangement of the molecules, the hydrogen bonds between them. So there is a lot of disorganized systems. When it passes through, this is what we consistently see, is how it refines the very structure for life to thrive. From the hexagonal bond to ultimately each and every one of us were birthed in this water, which we equate to as not just amniotic fluid, is plasma.
But do you know what the one thing, Krishna, that Pollock says is, you're birthed in hexagonal water. It water organizes in those hexagonal shapes. That creates the carbon for life. That creates life itself. These little hydrogen bubbles that cohese. It is the formula for life. And I don't think we think of it that way. But this is what water does. It actually is the building block from which we swim in, from which we come from the ocean, what we come from the womb, to what we even bathe with our own cells and everything. And we're 99.9% water at a molecular level. And that's something people don't think about. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so when we add to that, which is why the carbon structure, since we are all carbon-based, so the structure of the carbon, I'd call it the grand unification of these carbon structures, is what then extends when we look at, we don't need to talk about extending of life, but you optimize the quality of life.
Yeah.
Now, let's get a little deeper here. We look at what is the actual driver of the hydrogen bonds, which are the key to hydration, nutrient transport, and then how we see mechanical stress creating electrical charges. And that's exactly what we do inside of our devices with the nature and the response of how piezoelectrics can be generated. So when ultimately we work within the structure of the water, we work within the structure of the hydrogen atom, and when the compression of the hydrogen bond between the hydrogen atom and the oxygen occurs, we see a vitality. So there's a spark. That spark ignition of life is what we will see just referencing across domains where what JivaWater is utilized. So bringing together, again, Da Vinci's inspiration, fundamental principles of nature, spirals, the Earth's field, the various magnetic fields in which we are imprinted, what does fields provide for life to thrive and grow, and then coherent domains. Coherent domains are a natural occurrence for life to thrive, which is what the ocean, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
Which is what the oceans provide on a rhythmical cycle. In every cycle, the ebb and flow of waters.
And the other thing that happens in a stream that a lot of people don't think about is when the stream comes down, we think of it as just flowing placidly across, but it's moving like this. It's moving exactly like what you see with the seashells. And that makes it a current going left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, which is Schallberger's work. So by actually spinning it and turning it, you're getting the oxygen, you're getting the charge, you're getting the vortexing. And so all of that's within the Jiva device, which is, I have one, so I love mine. So anyway, there we go.
So when we, now all this, again, we talk about biomimicry because the extension of our research that's been done to get the physics of the water, the chemistry of the water, and the biology of the water, because we understand the quantum nature of the water from earlier studies that then led to the various NMR, FTIR, NIR, and all that, is that the closer we are to nature, the closer we are to the code of life. And this is a wisdom teaching. So hence to me, Jiva is not just an invention. It is a resonance with Earth's own flow language, which we see now thriving and spread to everywhere that Jiva is. So Jiva is oxygen-rich water, which I think Karen shared earlier, with those wonderful pathways where oxygen-rich environments begin to get nurtured and cultivated. And hence, what do we see are the outcomes? Cellular respiration, a key factor today in the health of any living system, biological system. Energy production, cells, mitochondria, ATP, these are natural generations of light, which then get transmitted through, again, the aquaporins play a very key role because the wetness of the water, due to its hydrogen bonding, flows through the aquaporins, hydrates the cells. And
I was going to give you that. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
So we see that the aquaporins, they enhance the efficiency of hydration. So with that, it also flushes away that which is not beneficial to be inside of a system, thereby increasing energy levels. And what is the outcome? Supporting cellular health.
I was going to show this. I wonder if it'll play. I might have to go back and figure that one out at the end. Okay, so let me go back a little bit because I can show how that actually works. Let me go back to here because you went to the aquaporin, so I switched it. So now you can go back to DNA. Sorry about that,
Okay.
Krishna, but I was following your flow.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's why you are a wonderful conductress. So what dear Gerald talked about is hexagonal and the ability to support and protect the DNA. This is a very critical passage that he wrote, and I'll read it. Water at interfaces is hexagonal and has the ability to support and protect the DNA from free radical oxidative damage and allows the DNA to function and replicate without mutation. This hexagonal water is the transmission medium through which information is delivered from DNA to RNA via short bursts of photons. Others have termed this as biophoton bursts or bioavailable photon interactions.
Actually, Krishna, that's exactly what the pictures we showed earlier of what it is with there's no known Jiva device because we've deadened our waters to what you actually have done, mimicking nature in it.
Yes, biophoton bursts.
Yeah.
And consistently.
Yep. So that's good.
So here is I think to emphasize the gateway, the pathways in terms of what has led to the evolution of our Jiva devices. It's geometrically engineered to deliver maximum oxygen and transports full spectrum of light's force to all living systems. Now, this is not a postulate we are putting out because it is based upon field trials, our extensive research in the field with agricultural universities, with government bodies, and repeated multiple times so that we can see the consistency. And it is based on all that is the focus for this presentation, is to bring that awareness that our water is a giver of life. It embodies, it's a fountain of life, and fountain of life for everyone so that everyone can thrive. So what are the cellular impacts of such structured water? We talked about aquaporins earlier. Then we talked about nutrient delivery and detoxification. This applies across in hydroponics, in aquaponic functions, all the way to our cellular functions. Hydrogen bonding influencing wettability. Then interaction with lipid layers, and these are again, it's about absorption and be able to provide the optimal level of hydration. Then better cellular, that leads to better cellular hydration. And then it maintains that osmotic balance.
We did this, and I can't show you this, but we will figure that one out. That one's kind of fun.
So then and why do we say harmonizing with Earth's frequencies? Again, what did Tesla bring about? He said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Yes, Tesla was a great influence. And that was also my deep dive and involvement over the last, I would say, 35 years, has been in such areas and such fields that ultimately get the ability to be able to imprint such information. And there it is inside of Jiva. And we see how life is beginning to flourish for people who were, especially in arid regions, where farmers are impossible. They said our waters are so saline. And we will see some examples. They are so saline that we cannot grow anything. They started using Jiva devices, and they see soil, the nature of the soil, the pliability of the soil versus hard, crusty soil, no accumulation of salts, and plants growing, thriving, and having high nutrific value, increased yield. So all the following begins to benefit not only the farmer, his revenue, her revenue, improve the soil, improve those no-leggeds in the soil, and all those little bacteria that flourish and thrive. Why? Because they have water with Again, we talk about the rainbow array. We are light. We are all based on light. That drop, when it is able to carry the information of light, it is the great intelligence of life.
So this part's just the reminder of all of the bits that have gone into your devices that you will make sure that are part of the biomimicry.
Yeah. There is motion, there is resonance, there is geometry, and there is charge. And all these factors, when you incorporate them together into I think I have one with me here, into this beauty right there, which you can hold in the palm of your hand. You just pass the water right through there, out it comes, and that water possesses such properties.
And you have different ones. You have ones that fit on the structures at home and one for farming. So you have about 5 different ones, not just ones you hold, but ones you actually can attach to your home, and it'll run through your whole. It'll go through your home. So, so we're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to show you all the different ways it can be used and more information.
So you see, this is a very clear example of a droplet of water which I'm studying. So I am looking at the photon emission from a normal water. This is water that we drink, commercial drinking water, and then we look at the same water pass through a Jiva device, and what occurs. So every dot that you see there is actually a burst of photons. So they're constant little bursts of photons, and you can see how consistent it is.
Just as an add-on, most people don't know this about you, but you have a GDV device and a BioWell device. So you're able to measure like most people can't. So I mean, you've been working with those with Konstantin Korotkov for years. So yeah. So what was so you want to clarify that? I'm sorry, we crossed over.
Close to about 30 years. So in my early journeys, I mean, this is very poignant to this point. To me, when I saw the value of the technology, and it was based upon fractal mathematics, and which means you are actually looking at the unseen that's beyond the visible spectrum. And that, I was like a kid in a candy shop. I traveled the planet, carried the devices with me. Where I couldn't, I brought back water samples with the appropriate curation of how to do that, and studied water. And from those decades of such investigations, it came to a very clear understanding that there are certain fundamental principles, and those fundamental principles are pegged to entropy as one key factor. Entropy, photon emissions. And of course, then it takes us into another depth of how we can look at the statistical distributions. I haven't gone into that here, but that's something that could be presented at another focused get-together, to just look at such valuations. But what this has provided us is the consistency that when water is invigorated with all the other factors that we have seen earlier, what it brings forth is water for life to thrive.
Yeah. There's the difference.
Yeah, and here are examples. Sugarcane. There you can see me inside a sugarcane plantation. Chopping, bringing, taking it to the lab, testing it. So now we can begin to see, and you see the inner core of the sugarcane. It is rich with light. And what does that really mean? It is rich with juice. And that juice is also having to do with the quanta of sugar or the quanta of any other derivative that you can get from the extraction process of the sugarcane. So plus the increase in yield. Increase in yield has gone up anywhere, a minimum, I think, that we have recorded so far is about 20-25%. And on the upper end, we have seen up to 150+%.
Wow. So we're going to take you then just really quickly through some of the different areas, because even though you can have it for your home, you can have it in a hospital, you can have it on your farm, each one might have a more valued aspect to it for different aspects of where you're living. So we could start with the home, and just to know, just to give you whether it's your pool, your drinking water, cooking with it, your coffee in the morning to your dog, there's huge benefits. And what we did, and to show you what happens, this is again, Krishna.
Yeah, so this was done with a device known as the BioWell, and so you can see that you can go to my I have a website called gdvusa.org, and you'll get really a fund of data out there. But this was a example of a professional, an architect, who exhausted extensive work, her energy field on her left side and energy field after drinking a liter of water. And you can see the increase. I think the statistical increase from there was from 42 to 52 joules. Now, you know that it's formidable for such a energy burst to occur. Similarly, on the left side, from 27 to 32 joules, and from the right, 28 to 33. So what we are actually referencing is the functioning of the water to the endocrine system. That's predominantly, because that's the control system of our entire organism. And you can see that also shown right there in the device. You look at the top, you can see that there is a uniformity, and that is the energy field that prevails across the entire ecosystem of this wonderful person, who then felt revived and vital, like she was feeling quite fresh to get started again. And
Krishna, point out,
yeah,
Krishna,
go ahead.
See the spikes? I think what people don't understand when they're looking at them, they may look instantly similar, but if you actually look, you'll see the spikes around the edges and the spikiness, because the picture's not really big. And so as you see over here, it's smoother. It's not as edgy. And so the BioWell does something else. It will, whether it's your knees that are agitated or what part of your body's signature is agitated, it's what it's calming down. So these spikes are, or you'll see, whether it's the back side or the front side, and Krishna can explain that, but you'll see here things are smoothed out. This person's calmer.
It smooths your energy field, yes, and thereby harmonizing the system to what we shared earlier.
Right. So I don't think it's kind of obvious, but not completely. So I just wanted to point that out. Sorry about that. Okay.
Thank you. So these are case studies that were done in a lab, and you can see live blood shows sludge and ghost cells. They've lost their bilayer and dispersed hemoglobin. After drinking JivaWater, the cells have more oxygen and show more energy. See, and we can see that the bottom two slides are the ones that are after the drinking of the water.
Yeah, they're not clustered. They're not all stuck together. They're more plumpy and round and full, and not.
The ghost cells have been infused with, again, life force energy, which is again the light of life. The structure is there.
So what we did is we picked a few things on different topics. Unfortunately, we can't play the video of this, but there's a spa in India that's a Vedic spa. So why don't you explain the benefit of what happens in the spa?
So the doctor who has this spa, most of his visitors come from Europe and the US. And he has a pool where he has been using water, and he keeps a heated pool. So one of the first things that his clientele observed was, one, the softness of the water. And second, the outcome of what the doctor observed, that he heats the pool. And prior to using a Jiva device, She used to take about 4.5 hours to heat the pool. And it's, I think, a 60,000 gallon pool. And when he used a Jiva device, it took him about 3 hours to heat the pool. So that is very significant. Plus the fact that, again, we know what it does to the water. And that to him was a very, very essential part of understanding, because ultimately his patients, his clientele that come, leave nourished. And they end up actually carrying Jiva devices back with them.
Then we go to the garden, and it does a ton of things. So you can keep going, Krishna. You don't.
Yeah. So no matter what environment you have, if you have a small rooftop garden, you can implement a Jiva device, and we have them in different sizes. But I can relate to them as we go up the road with our slides. But here's examples, and these are, you can see, will be consistent, very, very consistent. Rich color, flavor, higher nutrific value, and where it applies in bricks. Bricks is the term used to measure the levels of sugars, especially out in sugarcane, where the value of the bricks went from 9 for up to 14. With JivaWater, it went up to 14. So similarly, yeah, stronger growth with up to 30% less. That's a very important key takeaway, because the cells are hydrated and there is moisture in the ground. You don't need to water as much. And which is why the regions in the arid and semi-arid regions, which is why we were invited to speak at that UN-sponsored gathering in Nairobi, was because of this very same process. It's a big savings on water.
There's a story about this one, though. On Friday nights, Krishna goes and gets buffalo burgers. And Krishna he called me and said, "Look at the tomato they gave me on my burger, and look at the one I could have from home." I said, "You should take him your tomatoes from your garden." So that's based on his garden, Krishna's garden. So there you go. That's not like abstract. That's the truth. There you go.
Yeah. These are all data. We are data rich, because to me, I love data. I love continually investigating, and now passing the baton on to a younger generation, so that they can carry the imprint to understand really that water is the matrix of life, and to understand it from a multifaceted purview. So this is a brewery. It's a private brewery in the Czech Republic outside of Prague. And they installed one of our devices into their pipeline and saw that their sludge reduced by that percentage, 70 to 80%. And fermentation efficiency increased by 7 to 10%, which is a very big factor for the brewmeister. So higher in aroma, flavor, balance, and then we ended up also doing a study with the university, which I think is in the next slide, right?
Yep. This one where this
right,
one
so,
shows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you.
So here we go. So here we see that there is, when endogenous respiration enhances, that is what ultimately revives and gives enrichment to the flavor. And this was the words from the brewmeister who we met. Srini, our head of research, Dr. Abhishek, and myself, we flew to Prague, and we also met with the brewmeister, who basically said that during the COVID period, most other breweries ended up closing, but their brewery not only maintained, but they had a slight increase in consumption and sales. And he attributes that to what our Jiva provided to them.
And just as we're going to the next category, but before we go there, you've had that same sort of result with the flavor in wineries and even in your coffee cup.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we go to farms, we look at, again, not just what it does to the plants, but what it does to the animals. So I'll give you a study of what they did here with turmeric.
So turmeric, as we know, is almost as a divine gift to life at large, and we know the properties of turmeric. So this was a turmeric farmer whose increase in essential oil yield was almost 3 times. The statistics are there on the top, and a 50% increase in curcuminoids. And curcumin is actually the one that is used extensively to ultimately make your nutrient preparations. So, and also a huge, yeah, and a huge
too quick for you?
Increase in the yield, a 40% increase in the yield, which was 4 tons, and now we got 5.5 tons. Then we talked about the hydrating earth skin. You look at the example on the soil, where you see the sedimentation from the salinity of the water. These are borewell waters. That same soil with one of our devices installed right into the main pipeline, and you can see that the crop was paddy. Paddy is rice, with the staple food. Friable soil, very soft. Root depth increased, and you can see that very, very clearly versus the other. And this was a great joy to the farmer. Then we had a university conduct studies. Then we had another government body conduct repeat studies on them. And they went to the point of recommending to farmers to use Jiva devices because of their observations, what they found, not only from the yield, but also to the rejuvenation of the land, and also for the conservation of water. So we look at all the factors, sustainability and caring for the earth. So, well, needless to say, there is the moo cows are happy. Their immunity is stronger. I mean, basically, the stronger immune systems, and the cattle rich milk production, then their fertility also increased. And again, we also know the reasons why. And fewer veterinary visits. And this to the farmer is a great boon. The same thing with birds, with the poultry birds that are raised for the table. Strong immune system, increased weight, less fat, savings in food intake and medications, and also important is their thymus gland increased in size.
So you did another.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you did a study that had to do with hydroponics and aquaponics. So
yes, so and this was really remarkable because much of this data came from looking at the water through mass spectrometry and chromatograph. So what really the takeaway from here, not only does it your increase of yield, increase of the microbiome, the health, then plant growth cycles, so you have deeper root systems that go in, stable development of the plant, then need of fertilizers for those who use, that also can be lessened by a significant amount of 30%. The resilience of the plant also is amplified. Then here is some of the takeaways. Zinc, nutrient uptake increased by 50%. Macronutrients, your potassium, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium. Then better enzymatic functions and trace element, which is very, very significant in terms of being able to provide the immunity and plant light conduction. Through the pressure and the acceptance of water going up through the phloem and the xylem of the plants. Then we talked about ROS, antioxidant fighting molecules, roles significantly. And the big takeaway from here also was the carotenoids, like lutein, beta carotene. Lutein is very, very important for water, especially in these arid and semi-arid regions of life. And here we look at, Arizona, Southern California, and even now we are looking across the vast section of the Midwest, because going back to the time of the Dust Bowl that we all know. So these have big implications for the benefits to the farmer, and also the fact that they are able to reduce their intake of especially large-scale fertilizers and reduce their consumption of water, which is so vital and precious to the agri community in every possible way. And especially as we keep growing in the aquaponic sector and the hydroponic sector, the vitality of the water, to maintain the vitality of the water, it comes back again to the hydrogen bonding, to the lattice structuring, the hexagonal structures, aquaporins, all that begins to cycle continuously. So in aquaculture, we see stronger immune system support, healthier growth, optimized hydration, and that again we talk about animals because fish are used as the nutrient uptake out there. So their digestion efficiency enhanced, their health is also better, and what comes out of this is the produce that you make is also rich in nutrific value and flavorful.
So just in general, for kind of going through, we're not going to go through all of these things, but we just want to let you know that there are brochures available, which will show you that cover all of these different sectors, from institutions to schools. So this is just an overview here for if you're in industry or manufacturing, you're reducing scaling in your equipment, operational sustainability, lower energy costs, and optimum water usage and cooling and filtration systems. And if you've got green grass and a lawn and a golf course and all those other things, you can imagine what a benefit it is.
Yeah, and also when in large apartment complexes where there is wastewater treatment, the end mile of the wastewater treatment, when it's passed through Jiva, whether it is utilized into cultivating of a garden, whether it's vegetable garden, flower gardens, which many sectors of industry end up doing, boiler wastewater, that gets treated, they pass it through the Jiva, they were able to grow crops like rosemary, they were able to grow flowers, they were able to grow various types of vegetables. And well, to us, to me, to my partner, Srinivas, it is almost very, very important that we nurture our planet's lifeline, as it is to Karen, as it is to Gerald Pollack, as it is all who preceded us. So our global initiative, I'll just read the bottom of it. JivaWater stands for a beacon of hope, a true life force for the restoration of our ecosystems, offering a promise of renewed vitality, prosperity for our planet, which I feel is all our fundamental responsibility, so that we can leave a planet for the next 7 generations, as the wisdom teachers have concluded.
And just so you know, for every single one of these categories, there was home, garden, just water systems, hydroponics, aquaponics, brewing, wineries, coffee farms, schools. We have brochures for all of them in greens. So if you want to take a note of that one there with the screen, you can. And if not, the next slide will also give you your contact for Krishna, to how to make contact and see
before you go there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, before you go there, I just want to Go back to the earlier slide, not the one, but the one before that with all the 4 devices,
Ah, gotcha.
or 1 to 5 devices.
Gotcha.
So here, not only do we have the handheld, but we have the larger devices that range from 1-inch NPT, 2-inch NPT, 3-inch NPT, with flow rates from 9,000 liters per hour to 50,000 liters per hour. There is an inlet and an outlet side for all our devices, and they are all available. And should you seek to want to engage with our company, we welcome you to. There's a QR code, and you can reach out to me, which I think is the last slide here. I'm here based in Taos, New Mexico, and you can correspond with me by email. That phone number that you see is also on WhatsApp. So I really look forward to all our collective engagements, because we are all beings, as we know, most based upon the core of understanding the science of life. And that to us is paramount. And the closer we come to achieving this, the more we will ennoble our societies and communities to thrive. And with that, I give namaste and thank you.
I'm going to say one thing. Krishna will be at TeslaTech this year. He won't necessarily be speaking, but he is going to be there with his devices. You can go up and talk to him and learn more about water if you want. So there you go.
And
He'll be there with Jerry. Yep.
Yeah. And my deep thanks to Steve and to you, dear Karen, for hosting this wonderful get-together.
I'm just your sidekick.
I want to thank both of you for being here and everything. It's getting kind of late, and we are going to have a great lineup at the conference. For those who weren't here earlier, it's going to be August 6th to 10th at the Crown Plaza in Albuquerque, New Mexico again. And we have a great lineup, and I hope to see you all there. If you sign up this week, you're still 30% off. You sign up 2 people, you get an extra 5% off, you know. And so, plus we're also throwing in the workshop where you can build your own drones and go home and terrorize the neighbors with it. So I encourage you all of you to get signed up this week. You know, the hotel reservations are open. It's $119 for 1 to 2 people, and which is really good because that includes breakfast, and the other hotel, a comparable value would be like $160, $170. So,
and Steve, you always host a nice thing in the end.
Pardon?
At the evening, you also host a sort of a nice sort of, I won't call it a dinner, but it's dinner at the end for those.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call it a dinner, but we always have something like a taco bar, or a pasta bar, or a chicken wing bar and chicken. You know, so we have all kinds of good food there. You know. No one has starved at my conference yet.
And here's the fun thing about being at the place with all of the speakers are available. Everybody sits out in the morning and sits in the sunshine and gets their cup of coffee and talk. So it's not just you're going to hear speakers, you're actually going to interact with all of the other people. There's always other techies there that are to engage with. So it makes it really, really fun. It's really intimate. You're not, even in the hotel the way it is, you're not mingling with any of the other guests. It's like Steve owns that whole side of the hotel. So we are in our own little enclave, in our own little bubble, having a really awesome time. So come in and engage with us.
Now in the whole hotel.
Well, we kind of do.
It is celebratory, truly.
Yeah.
And the hotel is great, you know, and they even have not 1 but 2 swimming pools. One's outside and one's indoor. You know, so you can get grounded, you know, after a long day there. And believe me, these are long days because we start off at 8 o'clock in the morning. Actually, breakfast starts at 6. So we run from 6 in the morning until 9, 10 o'clock at night.
We run till 1 in the morning almost every night, just talking.
And so it's it's a good investment. You know, you get there and you're gonna meet a lot of people who talk like you do, because those of us here, my entire life, you know, I know not everybody is into this kind of stuff or even into technical stuff at all. So it's refreshing to find people who speak your language or who understand something. You know, it's not like you're talking an alien language to them. You know, although there may be some aliens above us. You know, but
I had a friend named Gene, and when I met him in St. George, he'd always say, "Oh, you're the only one, Karen, I can talk to." And he was one when I had a few free tickets that I could give away. I gave him one. He showed up, and he says, "Oh my God, they were all like me. I didn't think that was possible." He had such a good time. So yeah, you're right about that.
yeah,
Gene
because
would be a good poster boy for that one.
we have a unique group of people that meet every year, and I think, you know, you all want to be part of it. And I'd like to thank you all for showing up. And there's a couple of questions like Bob Grenier. Yes, he is going to be there. And we're going to be having an announcement here in another week or two of a couple of additions I'm making. And so
they're not small.
Start checking our websites, you know. So I'm almost in the final phase of the program. I hope to get to the printer this week. And as soon as it goes to the printer, it'll be posted online, you know. And I mean, for what we charge for people to come to our conference, for you to go out and meet all these people on your own, it would be a fortune, you know. And here you got everybody in a concentrated form. You can go from person to person. Yeah, I mean, you know, meet your heroes.
Actually, it's kind of funny. Even one of the friends who's the speaker last year goes, "Oh, I think I'll come in," because he thought it was like fringe. Well, he happens to be a nuclear physicist. He is so much fun. He's coming back this year, and he's so happy to do it, to be able to share and do the things that he loves to do. So he found this way more involved, way more exciting, and way more dynamic than he expected.
So anyway, after that, I'm going to call it a night and encourage y'all to come back next week. And I'll see you again next week at 6 o'clock. Thank you again.
Thank
Super.
you.
Thank
Super.
you.
See you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Karen.
You're welcome.